but we're going to be talking about some old methods and some of my favorite techniques for catching salmon, which almost go up by about 50%. Oh, there he was too, dang it. Twiddle, 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 twiddle. Twiddle, twiddle. Oh, there he is.
All right, everyone, before we get this video started, I am so excited to announce this Saturday at our warehouse, December 23rd. The address is right here. We are doing our end of the year bash. It's the last chance you're gonna get to enter to win the Old Town Autopilot kayak. You're also gonna have tons of insane deals and do a little pan, Mike. This is the first time that we're gonna let you guys into our retail store. So we're not done with this thing yet, but we're gonna try to get it somewhat complete for you guys to come in and see it. This is gonna be our retail store that we have open Monday through Friday. We're thinking roughly like 10 a.m. to 6. We don't know exactly, but it's gonna be the first opportunity you guys are gonna be able to get in here. We also have some custom limited edition coon shrimp that we made with Millennial Coon. The only place you can get these is in our store. Gonna be an insane amount of deals, tons of warehouse deals. We're doing free gifts for the first 100 people, free gifts for all the kids that show up. We're gonna have Santa Claus here with a little elf if you wanna get pictures with your kids. It's gonna be an absolute amazing time. I hope you guys are here. December 23rd, 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Address is right here. We'll see you guys there. Now let's get into the video.
Now you probably are all wondering, what the heck is Jordan doing to his bobber? And that, the big secret of today's episode. We're gonna be out on the river trying to catch some fish with you guys, but we're gonna be talking about some old methods and some of my favorite techniques for catching salmon any time of year, but particularly in the fall, and one more method that you guys maybe have never heard of before, and definitely probably haven't done yourself. So stick around. This is gonna be a great episode today, everybody. Let's go fishing. So today is gonna be a really big focus on bobber fishing, and I have two techniques that I really like to use, or setups and more in particular that I like to use when I'm salmon fishing anytime in the fall. Really, it's good to have multiple methods to take out there on the river, and doing what I'm gonna show you guys throughout today's episode will give you different looks at fish that may be getting fished on that you may have already casted at during the day, but nonetheless, they're two very effective ways to put yourself above and make yourself a little bit different than the guys around you or the other people on the river. So typically when I'm fishing a bobber setup in the fall time, I'm going to use a 9.9 8 to 17 pound rod, or you can go even a little bit heavier, but the 9.9 8 to 17 pounds seems to do really well when I'm fishing for the coho and the Chinook species. I got a C40 Kaimar reel on here with 65 pound Addicted Enforcer braid. Most all of these products that we'll be talking about here today you can find on the addicted.fishing website, so be sure to go over there, check it out, especially with the terminal tackle. All the things that we're talking about today are going to be available online at addicted.fishing. So I like a 65 pound braid so that it sits on top of the surface. That way when I'm floating these baits and I'm floating these techniques through the areas where the fish are, I'm getting a very natural float. My line's floating up on the surface, and then the rest of my gear is down right in front of those fish so that those fish aren't seeing any of that bright line. How I kind of counteract that bright line that I'm using here as the 65 pound braid is I put on a 15 to 20 pound bumper line, which is a fluorocarbon line. And I attach this line using a blood knot or any sort of uni knot that you can find. I say tie the one you're best at. But I use a 15 pound fluorocarbon all the way down to my 3/4 ounce bobber. I like to clear bobbers. All styles and sizes of bobbers work well, but the setup that I'm working with today, because the water's a little clear and a little bit low still, is a 3/4 ounce clear bobber. I think the fish don't see it as well sometimes. Down to my Dave's Tangle Free inline weights. Now you guys can see I've gone a little trickery on you. This is the 1/2 ounce Tangle Free weight. But what I've done is I've just added a couple extra split shots to counteract big boiling water or to get deeper down in a hole that normally I wouldn't be able to get down in as well with that light of a bobber. But I just add a little bit of weight. The bobber seems to be able to take it. And then below there is the terminal end. This is all the meat and potatoes. Oh God, 3 of them just jumped out of the water. A lot of fish jumping, everybody, I'm distracted. Below my line is about a 3.5 to a 4 foot leader. I think this is key when fishing this setup because you want that bait to get out in front of your weight. You want it to get down and settle in front of those fish and kind of have a perfect situation where your bobber's here, the current's going this way, bobber's here, lead's here, bait's here. So all that fish is seeing especially when they're schooled up the way they are in the fall, is that bait coming at them. They don't see your line first, they don't see any lead first, they don't see any of that braided line as well, and they're just seeing your bait coming at them, and I think it makes them a lot more comfortable and makes them tend to bite a little bit better. But what I have here in between my actual setup and where it connects to my weight is a little split shot. This is a size 6 split shot, and I put it about halfway down towards my bait just to kind of level my line out so that I can use that little bit longer leader and still get this bait down into the strike zone when I appropriately set it with my bobber stop. Now the key here, one thing that I'm going to show you guys is not brand new, it's not uncommon, but it's something that I like to do when I'm using just a bait setup, is I almost always add a bead in line above that bait of eggs that I have on my hook. And why I do that, a lot of people will add a bead dropper where they'll tie the bead and everything onto the end of the hook, but personally I like putting them both side by side. I use usually no larger than a 14 mil bead, a size 14 millimeter bead, but this one here is a 10 millimeter. I have it pegged with a toothpick or one of the bead pegs that comes with, or the Brad's bead pegs or the 𝗛𝗥𝗏 bead pegs, whatever ones. But I really think having that bead up above kind of attracts the fish. It gives them something else to look at, and it makes a very good presentation once your bait does start to run low and you get just that little bit of skein left on your hook. That little bead with that little bit of skein is a very effective way to catch salmon and steelhead, and very cost effective. You don't need a lot of eggs, you aren't baiting up all the time, and you're constantly fishing and down in the strike zone right where those fish are and wanting to bite. On the end of my line here, tied on with an egg loop, obviously because the eggs are already stuck in there. I was just fishing this earlier. But on the end of my line, I'm using an 𝗑𝗘𝗟𝗣 Advantage bait hook, one of our new hooks that are going to be coming out onto the market. You guys be on the lookout for them. You will be able to get them here at Addicted.Fishing, and I'm excited for them to come out and onto the market for you guys because they are killer hooks. But I got the 1/0 hook. I'm going to go in reverse again. 1/0 hook, 3 to 4 foot leader with a split shot in the middle, 1/2 ounce weight, 3/4 ounce weight, 3/4 ounce bobber, down to my rod. Time to go catch fish. I do have my bead on here, and why I like to have this thing pegged is so I can move it up and down like so. It helps a lot when adding a new piece of eggs like we're about to do here. You can see here, we actually have tutorials, and if you guys want more in-depth kind of insights on how to actually rig this exact setup from the knots and everything, go back into our log of Addicted tutorials and check some of those more in-depth videos out. I'm gonna more show you guys techniques and hopefully catch some fish with you today. But it's very crucial to have all this technique dialed in perfectly. But here is my bait loop that I have on here. The importance of a bait loop is that you can stick the line up and through and pull out that loop so that when I do put bait on my hook, I can wrap it around and secure my bait to my hook. So it's nice to have that bead to be able to slide up, so it gives me a little bit of room. If you peg that bead too hard, you won't be able to move it up and down, but I'm gonna take 2 little chunks of eggs here. I cut my eggs fairly small. That way I can either use 2 little chunks or 3 little chunks if I want a bigger bait, or like this time of year when we don't have a lot of water flowing around, I can go with 2 little chunks and get a pretty good little bait there. That's it, we're ready to go. Slide my bead down just a little bit closer to my bait, and it's time to cast. All right, so it's time to fish. Now here I have my quintessential bobber, and you can fish the bobber and eggs pretty much everywhere in any kind of hole that you guys want to. As long as it has some movement to it, even if it doesn't, you can fish these techniques. And the next technique, the secret technique I'm gonna share with you guys, really works well in a lot more still water situations or tidal water situations, which a lot of people like to fish this time of year when all those fresh salmon are coming in from the ocean and stuck in those tidal zones. But all I'm gonna do here in this case is most of my hole, I'm always gonna start at the top of the hole. Most of my hole that I have here is down below me because I wanna, again, be stealthy. I wanna let that bait go down, get to those fish before they ever notice or hear the boat or know that I'm here on the bank. So here we go. All right, my bobber stop set to about 4 feet. I'm gonna cast it out below me here. And as this starts to fish, I'm gonna keep my bail open the entire time. This is a misconception of people a lot, is that they wanna hold tension against their bobber. You can see that immediately when I hold tension, the bobber, oh, something ate the bobber. Okay, so when I hold tension against the bobber, it completely changes my direction of my cast as it goes through the hole. If I start letting it go naturally with the flow of the water, it starts to flow perfectly at the same speed, and we're in the strike zone right where we want those fish. So in a situation like this, I don't want too much line on the water. I want that bail open the whole time. And the way I make sure that that thing is gonna float naturally is every about 10 feet that thing floats downriver, I lift my rod tip up 10 feet and give it a little bit of line. And then as I let that line go out by lowering my tip, I lift it back up, go to about 10 feet, and that bobber's down. Ooh, first cast bobber down ski. It's like catching $1. Gotta be quicker than that. But anyways, like I was saying, as I'm letting the line out, I wanna lift the 10 feet off and then follow it out. Oh, that's getting bit, that's getting bit. What's biting it? Lift the 10 feet out and then slowly let it go down. And the key here now is the next step. The next step to making this whole equation come together is the process of when that bobber goes down and there's a fish on the end. I like to say, do the tweaker reel. I'm a big believer in not setting the hook too hard. So what I'm gonna do in a situation like this where my bobber's downriver, I have the perfect amount of line on the water, I'm gonna have my hand cocked and ready right next to the bail of the reel the entire time. So that whenever that thing does go down, I can easily do the 3-step motion of closing the bail, reaching for the handle, and then reeling like hell. The thing I don't like people to do is do a big whip and reel. A lot of times you'll see people get tangled up on their tips and or they won't pull in enough line on the hook set to actually hook the fish. It just lets the fish know that you're there, they swim away, your bait's floating all by itself again and you reel it in. Hopeless and shameful. Bait number 2 in this hole. Things are looking good. Things are looking good. Let's see. Let's see if it's just a smolt or if I'm gonna actually catch one. There we go. We're in it. What was that? There we go, there we go. It's down, it's down. Oh, come on. Okay, now you saw my method there though. I didn't yank the hook, or I didn't yank the rod too hard. I kept my rod tip at that 45-degree angle and I reeled like hell until I saw my bait skipping across the surface. And I think that is one of the most important parts of this, everybody, is that making sure you keep reeling to the fish until you feel it. You don't want to just reel up 3 or 4 cranks and then stop, because a lot of times on a hot fish will swim at you. That fish won't even have time to bring your line tight before it actually, you'll have to reel it like 5 or 10 times before you even feel that line come tight on that fish. So just remember, don't stop reeling until you see your bait or that fish is pulling. Let's get another one in there. Okay, and for our next act is the jig and twiddle. That's right, you heard me right. It's called the jig and twiddle. Life's all about twiddles and men's, people, and I'm about to show you why. So this is one of the most conventional and old school setups that probably is out there for salmon and steelhead fishing, and it's the bobber and jig setup. My good friend Big Dave, after fishing with him over the last couple summers, he opened my eyes to this method, and I think he may not be as happy about me telling the world, but I know that for you guys out there who are out there trying to have fun and catch fish, this is a method you have to be trying. We do the same setup. I have the same 8 to 17 pound rod, your normal bobber fishing setup, 9.9, same line rating, same reel rating is what I talked about at the beginning of the video, same bobber even, but what I'm putting on the end here is about a 3-foot leader of a 12-pound test, fluorocarbon line of a tough line, and a steelhead jig. That's right, a steelhead jig. Now there's many different kinds of jigs that you guys can use for this. I personally like the 1/8 ounce normal steelhead jigs that we have here at Addicted Fishing. They're the Addicted Sink It series must-add jigs. And really I kind of have a generalization of the colors that I use. One thing I've learned over the years of fishing these jigs and these Sink It series jigs, that every single color can catch a fish. I've literally caught a fish on every single color that we've designed with must-add fishing on these Sink It series jigs. But what I have for the rivers that I've been fishing, I have my pink head, pink body. I have my Charisse head, pink body. I have my all orange, and I have my creamsicle white head, orange body. Granted, there's a ton of different ranges of colors, a ton of different SKUs that go with these products, but the rivers that I've been fishing, these are the colors that I like. Marabou jigs also work very, very good. Big, fluffy, bright marabou jigs. I don't have many on me. They're kind of hard to find, but your maxi jigs, your Bomac jigs, anything truly that is just a steelhead jig works well with this. But I'm doing one thing that kind of sets it apart. One thing that you don't often do too much when you are fishing these things for steelhead, and I'm gonna add bait to my jig, and I'm gonna fish it a little bit differently. So let's get after that. All right, I'm gonna do something that's really gonna freak you guys out. Now you notice I talked about just a minute ago how I cut my baits really small, and it's for this exact adaptation here. What I'm gonna be doing is I'm gonna actually stick the betta eggs through the skein about 3 or 4 times onto the end of my hook. And there we have it. We have a bobber and jig with a nice little betta eggs. It helps a lot to maybe put some sodium sulfite on your eggs, or pick out eggs from the store if you're buying them from the store that are really tacky and hard. That will stay on your hook really well. If they're too wet, if the skein's not developed enough and it's not salty enough, you'll get a very loose egg and it won't stay on your hook very well. But I got some pretty good cured up eggs here. let's give it a shot and show you how we're gonna fish this. Okay, one thing I will say about the jig and twiddle is it really opens up a lot of different kind of water that is on the slow end of things. A lot of times when you're fishing different rivers and different places in the fall time, and when you're fishing for salmon, some water is almost too slow to throw a bobber through. For me, my ADD doesn't let me watch a bobber go that slow, but this little activity helps a lot with a guy with ADD or anybody out there, any angler with ADHD. And as well as fishing that slow water, giving your bait a lot of action when you're fishing that stagnant water where normally things aren't moving around quite as much. So the hole out in front of me, I know is about 8-9 feet deep. So I'm gonna go a little bit deeper on my bobber stop. I want this jig to be about a foot or so, 1.5 feet off the bottom, because I want it to be able to do the movement that I'm gonna give it. I'm gonna start my cast up at about 45-degree angle. It's very important to cast this gently too, because of the way we have the eggs on the hook. It's very important to give it a nice lobby cast up at about 45 degrees upriver. So normally with a steelhead jig, or when I'm steelhead fishing or fishing with a bobber and jig, I wouldn't want to move it much. But this isn't steelhead fishing, we're salmon fishing, so I'm gonna do the twiddle. And now what a twiddle is, if you guys watch, all I'm doing is I'm closing the bail. I'm not really pulling my bobber too far towards me, but I'm just lifting my rod tip, pulling my wrist down and my elbow back, and I'm giving it 2 or 3 little bobbles. And all I'm doing is moving the jig, and it's doing that tiny little movement up and falling down, tiny little movement up and falling down. In a situation where we are fishing for aggressive fall fish, where those things want to be eating the stuff that's moving around and pissing them off, just that little bit of a twiddle, that little bit of a jerk, let that thing fall right back down and let about another 10-12 seconds go by, let that jig go another 15-20 feet down the run, and then give it another twiddle. And another little twiddle. Just a little boop, 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 boop. And then we're to the end. So you guys can see how in a situation like this, where we have slow water, our bait's not just gonna be sitting there going really slow by the fish. We're giving it that little bit of love to where it comes up, it's moving around, and it's doing that falling technique. And that is really what keys a lot of fish into biting, is when their prey or the bait or whatever it is that you're fishing for falls down in front of them and gives that vulnerable look that it's dying. That's when those fish key in and really can't help sometimes but to go and strike. Twiddle, twiddle, twiddle. Twiddle, 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 twiddle. And one thing to notice, you guys, I'm not actually pulling my bobber any distance when I'm twiddling. All I'm doing is I'm pulling the line tight, making contact with my line, and then I'm laying that 10 to 15 feet of line back on the water so that I get a natural drift and that jig can start to fall again. So another 10 feet, twiddle, 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 let it fall again. Twiddle, 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 twiddle. Twiddle, twiddle. Oh, there he is, oh my God. Oh, right after the twiddle, just got slam-a-ram-a-ding-dong. Oh, it drained it too. How did he let go? Now you guys saw it was immediately after my twiddle, as that jig started to fall, that fish came and hit that bait. Where I think otherwise, if it was just floating through there naturally, we wouldn't have gotten a bite. The eggs are still good. They're still on there. Let's get it back out there. Twiddle, twiddle. Twiddle, twiddle, twiddle. Twiddle, twiddle, twiddle. Twiddle, twiddle. Twiddle, twiddle, twiddle. Jig and twiddle. Jig and twiddle. Jig and twiddle. Watch it now, watch it now. Jiggy go fishy. By my jig you see. Give me a big bobber down ski. Or maybe a bobber up. Jiggy, jiggy. Twiddle, twiddle. Oh, that might have been bottom. That one might have been bottom. Whew. Got me going. All right, one more bait through here. Twiddle, twiddle. Oh my God. Oh, that hurt. That hurt bad. Strippy poo. Strippy poo'd be bad. You guys are seeing this though. You are witnessing the effectiveness of the twiddle. And we can all attest for it. Almost every one of these bites has been within 3 seconds of a twiddle. Okay. Here we go again. One last try. Twiddle, twiddle. Twiddle, twiddle. Twiddle. Twiddle, twiddle, then we twiddle. Oh God. Oh. Third time was not the charm. But now it's on to the next method. So we're gonna crawl in to Jordan's big loose box of magic here and grab this thing, the heavyweight selection. And that is the 1 ounce addicted tail out twitchers. So as I said in the beginning of this tutorial, you guys, we're talking about a lot of the same methods that we always talk about, but I'm talking about intricate little ways to set yourself apart and give yourself a little bit of an advantage. Things that I think a lot of people overthink when they're thinking of each of these techniques, like the jig and twiddle, like putting the bead above your beta eggs, and in particular here with the twitching, using the 1 ounce selection of these jigs to utilize different parts of the river that a lot of people usually can't fish very well. I find a lot of anglers are pretty intimidated by the 1 ounce twitching jig, one, because they're really worried about losing them. But like I've always said, when you're fishing twitching jigs, if you're not losing gear, you're obviously not down there on the bottom fishing correctly. It's part of this style of fishing. But there is simple methods and techniques to keeping yourself off the bottom quite as much, and also utilizing that heavy jig to stay in front of fish and ultimately catch more fish in the long run. My favorite rod for fishing these, especially in the 1 ounce selection, is the 7/6 𝗛𝗘𝗪 twitching rod. This thing is a very fast action rod. It has a nice stiff backbone. It's got that soft tip so you can flip that jig across the river easily. But really it's the length and the speed of this rod, being able to jig that jig quickly and constantly make contact with the lure on the end of your line so that you're not touching the bottom and you're staying in the strike zone is what the beauty of using this rod is. Having anything over about 8.5 feet long will take away your sensitivity. Using a 9, 9.5, 10 foot rod for twitching is very inefficient because really you can't feel the jig, you can't feel the line because there's too much flex in your rod. But having a rod like this and using the right equipment is very crucial in effectively fishing these 1 ounce twitching jigs. And probably the most important part of all is having a 30-pound addicted enforcer braid. Anywhere from a 20 to a 30-pound braid is what's going to fish best with this sort of setup. Why that is because the higher you go in the line rating, the further you go up above 30-pound into the 40s, 50s, and 60s, the more your line wants to float. Obviously in this setup and with the selection, we don't want anything floating. We want that line cutting through the currents, getting down through the strike zone and to those fish as fast as possible without a lot of drag from the current and the line. And I'll show you more about that when we start fishing here. In most situations, I will always tie a fluorocarbon bumper onto the end of my addicted enforcer braid. I love having that high vis line so that you can see exactly where your line is fishing throughout the hole, but also it can tend to scare the fish a little bit. So putting on a bumper or a little bit of length of clear line, as is this fluorocarbon line, about 6 feet of it down to your jig is crucial in staying stealthy and also being able to get those fish to bite when they are a little bit wary and hard to catch. How I attach these two lines is with a uni knot, and what I like to use the most is a blood knot. I say tie the knot you're best at tying. There's multiple tutorials here on Addicted that show you how to tie these knots, and there's all kinds of tutorials on YouTube itself that'll get you on the right direction for tying a uni knot. There's, again, multiple different ways to do it, but I always say tie the one that you can most efficiently tie, and that's the one that's gonna stay strong for you. If you're trying to tie a crazy knot that you're not very good at, odds are it's not gonna be tied right and it's gonna break anytime, one, you're on a fish, or two, you're snagged on the bottom. So from my 6 foot fluorocarbon, I'm going down to my jig. And let's talk about our jig selection here. You can see how I have a pretty healthy variety of colors here. I got the Nightmares, I got the All Blacks, I got pink heads, I got disco jigs, I got the Seahawk. I have all the different kind of colors that are available to me so that I can match the conditions that I'm fishing when I get to that set river, wherever I'm fishing during the day. If it's low water, I want to go with things that are a little less intrusive, like the darker patterns, the Nightmares, the Blacks. If I'm fishing really dirty and turbid water and muddy water, I want to go with the bright ones, the chartreuse heads, the white bodies, and the jigs that are going to stand out more in that dirty water. But I think the key is having a couple of different jigs, having your favorites, but then also having a couple that you aren't as confident in so that you can switch to those jigs on days when everything that you normally like to use isn't working. And at times, color really does seem to matter. So it's good to have a variety. All right, so we've pretty much covered all the basics, but last but not least, and ultimately my very favorite way to fish for salmon and steelhead is with the spinner. And the spinner selection we're gonna talk about today are torpedo-bodied spinners. A lot of different spinners are out there on the market. There's your Blue Foxes, which are a bell body. There's bullet bodies that are a few different makes of spinners do, which are big, heavy lead bullets that are on the line, which make your spinner up to about like a ½ ounce of weight. And then there's the torpedo-bodied spinners. But there are a few online retailers and stores that sell these kind of spinners. One is North Fork Lures, there's Steelhead Slammer, there's R&B, there's First strike lures. There's a lot of different places that you can find these. We'll put some of the links below in the description so that you guys can get your hands on these. But we also have some of our addicted limited drop spinners, what you're seeing here. What makes a torpedo body spinner so effective and so much different than most of your common spinners that you find is the style of the body. As you can see here, it's a nice heavy lead body. It has very little surface area. So the thing about this spinner is it can sink and fall through the currents very, very quickly and easily and get down in front of those fish. The biggest thing with a spinner is having it close to the fish themselves. If that spinner is way up in the water column, swinging by them too quickly, the fish won't expend a lot of energy to go chasing after that spinner. And so the beauty of the torpedo bodies, and I'll show you a few more of them that I have in the box, is that these things get down through the water currents and in front of those fish much quicker than most styles of spinners. So in my little box here, I have a few different styles here. I have some North Fork lures and all kinds of different colors. I have some of the addicted limited drops. You can see I have brass blades, red bodies. My all-time favorite, of course, is the Michael Jackson black body with either a yellow blade or chartreuse body. Of course, your old school blue faithfuls, chartreuse. Here's a bullet body style. But ultimately, as you can tell, I have a lot of the same size of spinners. I don't range much out of that 4 to 4.5 size of blade, but I have a multitude of colors. And that's what's key. Again, being able to match the conditions of the day that you're fishing is what makes it crucial in having multiple colors. As you can see here, we open this box and we start looking at all these colors on a day like today. You can, right away, you can see the ones that are standing out. We got the darker colors, we got green, we got red, but obviously with the low light, with the sunlight the way it is, the chartreuse is standing out. So it goes the same with a lot of your different lures. You get to the river, try to match the conditions. Open your box, look at the different colors that you have, and look at the ones that are screaming at you. Look at the ones that are radiating with the sort of daylight that you have, and use your common sense in going with those colors that are standing out to you and your naked eye as a fisherman. And most commonly, those same colors will stand out to the fish in the river. All right, enough of the talking, let's go fish this. Okay, here we are, everybody. This is your quintessential twitching hole. 1, there's a bridge. 2, there's a rope swing. That's 2 indications that it's a good fishing spot. And 3, it's a deep spot where we'd want a 1-ounce twitching jig to be fishing it. As you can tell here, I have all this current coming in front of me, kind of bowls out underneath the bridge here, and has a nice deep pocket. What I'm gonna do with a twitching jig, and a lot of the time I'm not gonna cast right to where I think all the fish are gonna be. And that sounds counterintuitive and it sounds crazy, but I wanna effectively fish the entire hole. How you become a fisherman who catches a lot of fish is when you work your way through systematically through spots, and you catch the fish at the top of the hole, you catch the fish at the middle hole, and then you catch the fish at the bottom. If I cast it into the bottom of the hole and I hooked a fish, it could potentially spook everything else in the hole, and I wouldn't have a chance to keep catching fish after I let that one go. So let that be a lesson for you guys as you start fishing, as we get into the good part of the season here. Fish effectively through the hole, unless you got a buddy with you and you have to cast first, then ultimately probably cast right where they're at. But here we go. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna break this hole down, and each cast, I'm gonna change my cast about 10 to 15 feet downriver, 10 to 15 yards even. So first cast, I'm gonna go up to the top end, I'm gonna go to that far side eddy, I'm gonna keep my line tight, and the big key to fishing this 1-ouncer is using the weight to your advantage. Using the weight to be able to feel the bottom, identify where the bottom's at, and then enable yourself to keep that thing down there, keep your jig down in the strike zone, and slowly work it back to you. The thing about a 1-ounce twitching jig is you have to fish it fairly quickly. You don't want to be letting that thing sink too far or for too long and sit down there on the bottom of the river and ultimately getting snagged. So you can see how my repetitions, my amount of repetitions per second with my jig are going to be much quicker, and I'm not going to let it fall for quite as long with the 1-ounce twitching jig. So I made that next cast about 10, 15 feet downriver, a little bit further. I made about halfway through the run. I'm going to let that thing sink again. Keep my line tight. Ooh, that's deep. Thump, there it was. And you can see, one thing when you're trying to find the bottom with a twitching jig is you do not want to slack off your line. You don't want to free spool your line down into the hole, because ultimately you won't feel that thump. You won't be able to tell when your line is actually on the bottom or when your lure's on the bottom until your line goes slack, and it's too late. Honestly, at times your jig might already be snagged up by that point in time. So I'll do a quick little demo again on how I do that, how I search for the bottom. I close my bail, I keep my rod tip pointed straight at my jig, and I hold the line tight. There was the thump right there. And I'm just gonna wait initially for that thump. As soon as I feel it, I need to have my bail closed and I need to start fishing it. And twitching is one of the hardest things to verbally teach somebody how to do. It's so much easier to show and demonstrate, because what happens with the twitching is that the style of run will dictate how you're gonna twitch. So that your strategy and your technique will change at every single fishing hole that you move to throughout the day. So that's why it's very key to use the heavier jig, know where the bottom's at, and be able to stay down there in the strike zone where those fish are gonna be. Okay, so I made 3 casts, slowly going down river with each one. Now I'm gonna work my way down river to another 15 feet, all the way to that far side. Oop, there's bottom. I'm gonna start moving it across, and now that current's gonna start catching my line, you can see out there in the middle, I can kind of take my hand off the reel, and I'm gonna use the force of that current against my jig to keep that thing down low. I'm only moving my jig up about 2 feet, 3 feet at a time, and I'm making sure that it's falling farther than I'm bringing it back up each time. So now I got a little eddy here. I'm starting to get slack line each time, so I'm gonna start reeling 1 to 2 cranks after each time I jig. But you guys saw, so almost half of that drift, almost half of that cast, I never even reeled against my jig because I had the force of that current. I had my 20-pound line cutting through the, or 30-pound line cutting through the water. I have my jig down there on the bottom and it's staying right in front of those fish. One thing I see a lot, and we have video footage of it happening, is if you can get more than 2 jigs, if you can get that jig to go up and down in front of those fish more than twice, your odds of catching the fish almost go up by about 50%. Oh, there he was too, dang it. Just got the first hit. I found him. I found him, everybody, they're over there. That was definitely a fish. I was too busy yakking my gums. Okay, I'm going back over there. So I saw that system's working. I slowly worked my way down. No fish here, no fish here, no fish here. Finally hooked one down there. Okay, gonna let my line go tight. Thump, there's the bottom. Come on, baby, right there. All right, come on. I know you guys are in there. I know you guys is in there. All right. Okay, now it's spinner time. And where spinners are most effective is in moving water like you see here behind me. This is a big wide run. There's a lot of structure, a lot of area to cover. That's why I'm gonna go with the spinner in this sort of situation. Because if I systematically break this thing down and do my 3 cast, 2-step method, I'm gonna be able to cover this entire run, fish through all this fishy water in a short amount of time, in 15, 20 minutes, and then move on and keep searching for those aggressive fish. So what I'm gonna do here, I'm gonna step out. I got my Michael Jackson on here again. We're going with the torpedo bodies today, and I'm gonna show you exactly the methods that you want to fish water just like this. All right, so the beginning of my 3-step method is always cast about 1/4 of the way across the river, or I always say make your first cast at the distance away from you where you can't see the bottom. The closest you can't see the bottom, because it will surprise you guys and gals out there as you start fishing more and more, how many fish you catch really close to your feet or right at the bank. That being the case, having a good pair of sunglasses, these are addicted sunglasses that we have here. They'll be coming out soon for you guys. It's been a long awaited thing. But having the sunglasses and walking up to the hole gently, not running out in the water, not splashing around a bunch, but slowly working your way out into the run, making those first couple casts only about 15, 20 feet in front of you is a good way to catch those close fish. So now that I've made that first cast, I'm gonna go on about halfway across. Too many times I see people getting the bad habit of casting all the way across the river on their first cast. It's the nature of a fisherman to want to stand on one bank and cast all the way to the other. And that is not the most effective way to fish a spinner. Because what's ultimately happening is you're casting across and away from a lot of the fish that are in front of you. If all these fish are sitting 10, 15 feet in front of me and I cast all the way to the other side of the bank, I'm gonna be going, the only thing that those fish are gonna see is my line going past them and not my lure. So it's crucial in times like that to not overcast and cast too far. So now my third cast, I'm gonna throw it all the way across. And as I'm fishing this spinner, the way I regulate the depth of my spinner is where I put my rod tip. So I'm gonna put my rod tip down and bam, 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 I start hitting bottom. So now that I started hitting bottom, I keep that nice steady reel. I put my rod tip at about a 30-degree angle over the water, and I slowly follow my spinner the whole time. What I don't wanna see from you guys is when you cast out and that spinner starts working down, is you keeping your rod tip in the same spot and having your line move. What's happening there is you're losing all your sensitivity. You're taking away that direct point of contact to your spinner, and you're not gonna feel 1, the bottom, or 2, when a fish bites. Obviously, there's nothing here in front of me. I'm gonna take 2 big boy steps downriver. We go 1, 2, right there. Some of you might say that's 3, but I'm calling it 2. And then again, I'm gonna start close again, only about 1/3 of the way across. I wanna break every spot I fish with this spinner into thirds. Close, middle, far, 2 steps. Close, middle, far, 2 steps. Oh, I thought that was it. Thought that was it. But no. Made it all the way through there, did my 2-step method, didn't find any fish. Again, the next key to that is not to get discouraged, it's to keep on moving. So let's go find some more water. Okay, so the second type of water I'm going to talk about with fishing a 1 ounce here is fast moving water. This is where these kings can really excel. We all know that we use a 1 ounce to get down in deep water, but we don't understand how we can use the heavy jig like this to fish this fast moving water and ultimately be more effective in fishing it because we have the heavier jig. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to kind of work this as a counterclockwise angle, but what I'm going to really stress on with every cast is to be throwing it not from 90 to about 45 degrees downriver. This is going to be much more of a swing. It's kind of like a fly fishing technique in a way. But the beauty of having the heavy jig is that it stays in that strike zone. So what's going to happen is that the first couple jigs, when I hit that slack water on the far side, I'm going to have to be doing my reel. But as it comes over into this fast water, the beauty of having the heavy jig is I can literally sit and bounce it right off the bottom, not getting pulled into any rocks. I'm staying at that straight plane and I'm working a straight 90-degree angle across the river. So I'm getting to cover just about every bit of water as that thing swings across. And then all I have to do in this situation is not move downriver. I don't have to move my feet a lot. I can just cast to a different direction. So the first cast is a little bit further up. Next cast, I'm gonna go about 15 yards downriver. I'm gonna let that thing hit the bottom. Ooh, what was that? Let that thing hit the bottom, and I'm just gonna, again, hand off the reel, use the current, and I'm gonna swing this thing down and through the strike zone of this fast water. And I find that this can ultimately be some of the most effective twitching that you can do. This isn't your quintessential this isn't your typical or quintessential jigging water, or twitching water, because it has that fast movement and it's not slow and stagnant like most twitching holes would be. In this case, I'm using the current, I'm using the jig, and I'm working my way across this boulder garden. Ooh. So you guys, oh, what is that? A stick. Well, we caught something. Oh, now it's stuck. Now we're stick stuck. Oh yeah, it's a keeper. It's fin clip. Oh, he's gone, I lost him. Crud. But you guys can see, I kind of ate my foot there, but you guys can see is how many casts. I already made about a half dozen casts and I haven't snagged once. And even though I'm using a 1 ounce jig in like 3.5 feet of water, it's all about casting at that downriver angle, swinging that thing like a fly, and then just giving it that constant motion. Basically, every time you're jigging, you're just keeping yourself from getting stuck in the rocks. And again, when you have this angle on the fish and you're casting down at them, you get multiple presentations and multiple jigs in front of the fish's face, which is really key for getting these things to bite. All right, well, nothing in this hole. Apparently today's not my day, but we have plenty of clips of how good these things work. So let's cut to it right now.
It's all about the twitch. It's all about the twitch.
Oh yeah, is that a fish's head sticking out? Oh yeah, that's a fish. There's 3 of them. There's a bunch of fish right here. Oh my God, they're chasing it. He's chasing it. Oh God, okay. Found them. Found them. They're in the tree. Oh my God. Oh my God. I was not expecting this, everybody. Oh my God, stay out of there. Oh, he's in there. Oh God, he's done. Oh God, oh God, oh God, everyone. Holy shnikes. Holy God. He's trying to attack us. He's attacking us. Oh God. Oh my God. Everybody, silence. Holy shnikes, that's a big coho. Wow, everyone, that was cool. I just kind of gave up. I'd made as many casts as I could through there. I was about to just walk back to the boat in defeat. And we stood up on the rocks to try to get this cool shot and spook these fish out of this log jam here. There's like 10 of them. And this is the one that decided to bite. Holy criminies. That was violent. I'm shaking a little bit. I'm shaking. Wow, what a big coho. Oh, wow. See if I can land this giant thing without breaking my rod. Oh, okay, so this thing is completely, you saw with all that acrobatics, that thing is completely wrapped up in my line. So his teeth are right on my leader. You can see there how it's all wrapped up. That jig's in the corner of his mouth. I'm gonna try to get him unwrapped here. Oh my God, he's gonna break my rod. Okay, there we go. He came unwrapped. Not quite, not quite. Oh God, he's gonna cut my line. I can just tell. Okay. Wow, everybody, look at this thing. Try not to break my rod here. Okay, okay, he's unwrapping. He's unwrapping. He's unwrapping. There he is, okay. Goodness me. Holy shnikes, everybody. This is a fish of a lifetime right here. Oh my God. What a specimen of a salmon. Look at this thing. Oh, what a behemoth. I can't even frickin' hold him, everybody. Look at that. It's a wild fish, so we're gonna be sure to keep this thing's head in the water. Make sure to keep him breathing. Oh, wow. I'm having a hard time holding on to this thing. Oh, my hands are cramping. My glasses are all fogged up. Oh God, he's too heavy. Whew. Whew. Wow. Wow, everybody, look at that thing. What an incredible salmon. He is so strong. Oh my God, I'm literally squeezing his tail as hard as I possibly can. The water's cold. This fish is aggressive and big. Just look at the characteristics of his face. So unique. All right, everybody, let's say goodbye to this true, special, magnificent specimen. Thank you, buddy. Oh my God, so much strength in that fish. I'm completely blown away by just the sheer strength of that fish. Incredible. Yes.